They're bringing me into their home not to show me the areas that they're proud of, but to show me the areas that they don't want anybody to see.
All right. Hello, everybody. I am super excited about our guest today. I would love to introduce you to Mindy Leonard. Mindy Leonard is the founder and owner of Super Organized Spaces, also known as SOS, and I think we can all relate to that. Anyway, Mindy started SOS in 2022 after years of being, quote unquote, that friend who would help people organize and pack. So SOS focuses on helping people feel better in their homes by decluttering, purging, and organizing. They also help people with staging, packing, and unpacking when they're moving. And so SOS focuses on creating functional, efficient, personalized spaces for each one of their clients. She has worked with many people with ADHD, both those who were diagnosed as children and those who learned how their brains worked as adults. And throughout this process, she has implemented many tips and tricks to help people with ADHD live a more organized and peaceful life. Welcome, Mindy. I am so happy you're here.
Thank you, Jorie. I'm so happy to be here. We've been talking about it and now it's happening, and I'm very excited. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. This is such oh my gosh, the whole decluttering and organizing, it's just like our Achilles heel in so many ways. So I'm very happy that you're here because I know that you will have amazing things to share that I know our listeners are going to love. The first thing I have to ask you is, you mentioned that you went from being that friend to starting a business doing this. So what made that happen? Like what led to going from just doing it as favors to actually doing it as a business?
I had a lot of personal changes happening in my life, and I was entering phase 2 of my life. And it was time to think about, what do I want to do with this? And because I had always been that friend and that family member, if someone is moving, I want to pack them. If their closet was bothering them, I want to help. I've always my brain works that way. And we all have learned over time how our brains work very differently from one another, right? And this is how my brain works. And I just decided, you know what, I'm going to take the plunge and do this. And it really is the culmination of everything that I've studied over my life, from social work to interior design to communications and even journalism, which was one of my majors in college, and which was not an intentional plan. But as I look back, it's why I love what I do so much, because it literally incorporates all of my interests into one thing. And the overriding piece that is so important to me is just the direct way that I'm able to help people and improve their lives. Because when someone doesn't feel comfortable in their home, it affects so much more than just the physical space. It affects their mental wellness, their mental well-being, and just how they feel all the time. And so it's really an honor when people let me in their homes and I get to help them. And that's the biggest blessing that I have with this.
I love when people get to do what they love doing. You know what I mean? Because it isn't always an option for some people. So I love when we can find ways to make that happen. We know that when spaces are really cluttered and, they're not organized, we just don't feel good emotionally, mentally, physically. It can literally make you sick sometimes. So do you have a story where organizing a space led to a transformation for a client?
Almost every single time. They're very, very apprehensive to even reach out in the first place, right? And so they reach out, they're bringing me into their home, not to show me the areas that they're proud of, but to show me the areas that they don't want anybody to see. So they're very overwhelmed in their space. They're feeling vulnerable about bringing me in. They're nervous. They're all of these things, anxious, and they don't understand the process. And we walk through it and I explain it, and they end up enjoying it and having fun. But the takeaway is they feel so much lighter and they feel like they can finally breathe in their own home. The biggest transformation is when somebody is able to maintain, when I hear in a month or in 6 months or in 8 months or a year and a half, whatever time period it is, that it's working, that they're maintaining it, that it's changed their daily life, and they can find what they need when they're looking for it, all sorts of things. And so it is an ongoing, it's not just once, it's an ongoing repetition that happens all the time. And it's really wonderful.
I mean, just when I just clean off my desk sometimes a little bit, I'm like, ah, I feel so much better. So I can't imagine when it's like a bigger space like that. And especially when it's somebody who's really struggling with that aspect of organization, right? Going back to the vulnerability aspect of this, because I'm sure, as you mentioned, people do feel vulnerable. Like you said, they're coming into you're looking at the spaces they don't want people to see, right? And so, how do you help clients feel safe and empowered by going through this process?
I tell them from the very beginning that there is no judging, that there is no judging whatsoever. I mean, even on our first phone call, because that's where my process begins is with a phone call. And so I am a very empathetic person. Everybody on my team is very empathetic. We are all very thoughtful in what we do. We are all very gentle in what we do. And so I use the words to explain that to them. But when we meet in person, then they can see, right, that it's not just adjectives. I spend a lot of time getting to know my clients, getting to know their habits. It's really a trust that is developed between the clients and myself or my teammates. And um, I think it's very obvious upon meeting us that this is just who we are as to our core. And it's not a show.
Yeah.
And I think that comes across. And so we explain it, but then our actions show it. People feel comfortable with us pretty quickly.
Good. And you brought up a good point. Like, you know, you say, well, we say it in the words, but it isn't until they meet us where they finally go, okay. And I get that because I am always saying, like with my clients, this is a no judgment zone, right? There's no judgment. If you don't do your assignment one week, like don't not show up. Let's talk about it because there's probably something in there that we can work with. And there's no judgment with it. We're just trying to figure things out, but it takes a little time for people to trust sometimes. So I'm really happy that they feel good. And I think they feel safe pretty quickly with you because I mean, first of all, you just have a personality that is very, well, personable, but also like, you are somebody that I know people will feel safe with pretty quickly. So I'm really happy they have that because shame is such a big part of ADHD in so many ways. And this is one of those big areas. So for them to actually make that call and schedule this appointment is a huge thing for them. And so I love that they are feeling safe enough with you to let you into the house and to see these things and to trust you with helping them get it organized. So I think that's wonderful.
Thank you. I do not take that for granted, by the way. And I let people know and I congratulate them just on reaching out. Like you said, it's a hurdle. It's a huge hurdle. And so let's talk it through. And, eh, you know, the nice thing is that after the phone call or during the phone call, people do feel safe where they're saying, okay, you know what? Yes, come over. I can see that I can trust you, but saying it, like I said, saying it and being there are two different things. And so it just elevates it even more.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right. So for listeners with ADHD, what's the biggest myth about getting organized that you wish you could just like bust forever?
Mm, can I have 2?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
okay. The 2 is that there is no one size fits all when it comes to organizing, and everything has to be tailored, and the other one is perfectionism also should not exist. The definition
Oh my
of
God.
the
Yes, I
definition of
know.
perfectionism also, it's so, um, what's the word I'm looking for? Subjective. It is so subjective because what I think is perfect, you're not going to think is perfect. And the third person is not going to think is perfect. And so you can't even define what perfectionism is. So somebody trying to achieve it, you're never going to get it. And
Yeah.
so let's just make things function for the way that your brain works. And guess what? I always tell my clients too, we're getting to know each other, right? And so I will come up with an idea. I tell them from the beginning, you will never hurt my feelings. You can always tell me, no, that doesn't work for me. And I have 4 other ideas in the back of my head that I can pull out or we'll create something new together. And so I would say those are the biggest things is that there's no one size fits all when it comes to organizing and throw perfectionism out the window.
Yes. Oh. That is a big amen from me. I struggle with perfectionism so much. I mean, even just like putting this podcast together when I'm editing, I'm always teaching my clients to get used to the phrase, this is good enough. And now I'm having to coach myself through that. And it's really challenging, right? Because you want it to be perfect, but there is no such thing as perfect. Because as you said, what might be perfect for me, a listener may go, that sounds terrible, whatever, right? Like you just need to like have fun with it and just go with it. And so I really love that. And the one size fits all thing, I joke all the time that people with ADHD, we are out of the box thinkers on everything except executive functioning. And then we keep trying to shove ourselves in the neurotypical box and we don't fit there. And
Right.
so, embrace your uniqueness, embrace what your space looks like and feels good for you. And you're just gonna feel better as a human being with that. So I'm glad that you get that concept because not everybody does. So, how do you approach designing organization systems for neurodivergent clients, especially those with ADHD? Like, what's different about your method for them?
The method is almost the same whether somebody is neurodivergent or not, because even people who have more of a typical brain, if you will, right? I still need to get to know them. I still need to
Hmm.
learn how their brain works. I still need to learn the habits that they have in their family. Who does what when? Who's coming and going? What are the things that they're bringing every day? What are their grab and goes? What is their landing zone? I mean, there's so many things. So the questions are almost the same regardless if somebody has ADHD or not, because I still need to learn how their brains work. Everybody's brain works differently. So I asked a lot of questions from the way that they think to habits that the families do to the way that they live. I mean, just everything. I just really want to get in there and have an understanding of how their daily lives work. Not just the person who hired me in the family, but everybody in the family, because very rarely is it just one person, although that does happen when it is just one person, but I need to know the interaction of all the
Hmm.
people who live together, and sometimes it's multi-generational, sometimes it's young kids, sometimes, you can imagine every family structure is different, and so it's a
Right.
lot of question asking.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Talk about having to be creative problem solvers. It's like when you have, for example, a multi generational family. So you've got, yeah, oh my gosh, I can't even, I just have me, my husband, my kids, and I can't handle it sometimes. So I can't imagine having to try and coordinate all of that. Yeah. Your job must be just, it can't be boring.
Never.
Yeah.
No. It's no 2 days are the same, even if you're working with the same family. It's no 2 days are the same, and problem solving, yes, there's a lot of problem solving, and it's probably one of my favorite things that I like to do, is problem solve, but it's no 2 days are the same, like I said, and it's also, me and everybody on my team are very, very flexible because things change all the time, plans change all the time, and so there's a certain kind of person who can know that what we just confirmed for today is gonna be different tomorrow, Not everybody.
Yeah.
Some people just need that schedule and they need that regularity, and ours changes every day where we're gonna be, what we're gonna be doing, and we all love it, but it's why we do what we do.
Well, and I have to imagine too, as you are going through the spaces and your clients have, like maybe you leave for the day and then your clients kind of sitting there for a while and kind of go, okay, something about this doesn't feel right, or maybe I want this to be this way. And so like even the things that you think are set, I'm sure you have situations where people go, okay, so I've changed my mind, you know?
Yes, and
So,
and we tell them, "Be sure to change your mind. Live with it," right? Like, you think you want this way, and this sounds good, but until you live with it, and that's why it has to be so personalized, and we
mm-hmm.
dig so deep with our questions because it's gotta work for you. And so we'll set up a kitchen when somebody just moves in, and then we'll say, "You know what? Live with it and see
Yeah.
how things work because you've never lived in this kitchen before, so we can plan it the way that we think it's gonna work and the way that it sounds good to you, but once you've lived there for a while, if we need to come back and make adjustments, or you can make the adjustments?" So, with every space that we do, we always let people know, live with it and see how it functions, and then we can adjust as needed.
And so That actually brings up a good point, only because I know that people with ADHD tend to be people pleasers and we're really empathetic. And so we're always worried about hurting people's feelings. And so, like this would be a good time. I just sort of want to express to my listeners, she means it when she says, like, tell us if this isn't working. Like, you're not going to hurt their feelings. They want this to work for you. But I also know that fear of, oh, but I don't want to inconvenience, or I don't want to hurt their feelings, or, like those are the things that typically go through my head. As you were talking about those things, I'm like, I know that would be the first thing through my head. But I also know you, so I know I would be able to. But I also know that people pleasing tendency tends to run strong in my people. So I just want to sort of, stress it is okay to tell them it's not working for whatever reason.
And I set that record from the very first day. I tell them that, "You will never hurt my feelings. No, this has to work for you, or there is no point in us being here." So, I kind of throw that out there so that if something comes up, and I think people are very comfortable with me because set the record straight right away, open that door for them to say, and then, you know what? We do checks as we're going. "How is this feeling? How does this seem? Does it seem like it's working? What do you know?" And so it's a very, conversational approach.
You guys offer, SOS offers everything from decluttering to staging to packing and unpacking, right? So, which of the services do you see making the biggest impact for ADHD clients, and why?
Yeah, so our services, we kind of have 2 arms to what we do. So there's the first arm is for people who are not moving, they're in their house, they need a refresh, and it can be any space. It can be an office, it can be a closet, it can be the whole house, a garage, it doesn't matter. The second arm is for people who are moving, and from that perspective, we can come in and do decluttering, purging, we can stage using their own belongings, pack, hire the movers, and then on the other side, when they're in their new home, we can unpack, organize, get them settled. So it's kind of a two-armed business. Um, and with all of that, problem solving comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know that the one thing that makes a difference is either just the decluttering or the organizing or the packing or any of that, but it's learning what is the pain point for the client and then problem solving that issue. And so for some clients, it's going to be decluttering. Some clients they get a roadblock as I don't mind getting rid of things and I don't mind purging, but what do I do with it? And so they don't start because they don't know where to take it. And so,
Mm.
um, and so it's really the problem solving that goes into what is their pain point, and that becomes the most helpful. Hope
See
that makes.
yeah, no, that makes total sense. And that's a really good point, because I know that, well, you mentioned it, like they don't mind getting rid of the stuff, but then they're like, but what do I do with it? Or I know it's just going to sit in my trunk for 2 years because I'll never get around to, because I'll forget it's in there until except for every time I go to put my groceries in the trunk and I can't because I have all my stuff in there. Ask me how I know this. And so, um, so, so that vagueness sometimes of, I don't know where to start, or I don't know what to do once I've done this, that can really hold us up. And I love that you will even hire movers for them, because moving, oh my God, I have moved so many times in my life. I can't even begin to tell you. People used to think we were in the military because we move so much. I'm like, no, I literally have moved 4 times in the same like mile, but we were renovating and living in what we were flipping and for a while anyway. But the packing and the moving, you would think I would be an expert by now.
Mhm.
I loathe packing. I loathe all of it. I think because we move so much, but it's so overwhelming. Part of me loves it. Part of me loves it because you do declutter and you do get rid of things. Like we have been in this house now for 10 years, and that is the longest that Jorie and I have ever lived in the same house since we have been together. We were moving like sometimes every year, every 2 years. So, then we go, gosh, we have all this stuff. And it was because we weren't moving all the time, and we didn't have that decluttering sort of built in, So, so a little bit of a tangent there, but I understand the overwhelm with all of that. And so I love that you guys really kind of handhold a little bit for the people who need it. and just give guidance for the people who they've got part of it, but they're a little unsure about some of the other things. So being able to read that is, I think, that's a gift.
Thank you.
I'm not always great at the social cues. So,
And a lot of people are not. And so it's important to spell it out, right?
yes.
And I tell people here's our menu. We can do from A to Z. And if you want to just do D and Q, right? Then that's what you do. But some people need us the whole step of the way, and we're there managing the movers on move day. And other people just need a little bit of guidance. And so whatever people need, that's how we want to help.
Oh, I love that. I wish I would
Mhm.
have known you back then. All right.
Me too.
So how do you and your team balance empathy with accountability? Because that can be a tricky line, right? You want to help your clients move forward in their life and to maintain this new space that they have, but you want to do it in a way where they're not feeling overwhelmed or feeling judged. So, what do you guys do to help to balance that out?
We need their buy-in. So if we don't have their buy-in as to what the program is or the system is that we're putting together, it's they're never going to happen. And what we're doing is just a band-aid. And I don't want to waste their money, their time, their energy. So their buy-in is huge. And a lot of times, the schedule when we're visiting a client, again, that's also very customized. Some clients are saying, "You know what? I'm ready. Let's do this every day until it's done." Other clients say, "I can only handle once a week."
Hmm.
Sometimes it's once a month. So it's very, very customized for everybody. But we'll give homework like you were saying earlier, right? We will give homework in between sessions, and the homework will be as much as the person thinks they can handle. It can be just go through this one pack of papers, and the papers could be 3 inches high, and that's their homework for a week. Other times, some people can handle boxes and boxes of things. And so, again, very, very customized, but we stay in touch. And like you said before, sometimes homework gets done and sometimes it doesn't get done. But even if it doesn't get done, then we'll do it together when I'm there the
Hmm.
next day or my team is there the next day, right? But they have bought into the process, they have bought into the system, and what happens is that once somebody starts, motivation kicks in.
Hmm.
And so I think the motivation is a really good thing, and then we learn as we're working with people what motivation works for them because people get motivated in very different ways.
Sometimes people equate capable with their capacity, and they're two different things, really. So, like things that you're capable of are usually like when things are, you're feeling good, and it's like an everyday thing. It's pretty steady throughout. But sometimes your capacity fluctuates, and so you may have a day where, like, maybe you gave somebody an assignment, and they are like, "Yeah, I can do this," and in the moment they felt they could, but then when they went to do it later, their bandwidth was gone, and just understanding that aspect of it, it doesn't mean that that person has failed in the homework. It just means they recognize that their capacity had had diminished. The dopamine ran out probably, but that doesn't mean that it failed. You'll just figure it out at a later time. So I think that's important to state, because a lot of times people with ADHD, because our energy fluctuation is so much different than a neurotypical person's, they see it as a failing, and it's really not. It's just you understanding what that looks like for you and learning to work with it. So, just something that I kind of wanted to throw out there.
I'm
Um,
glad you brought that up too, because as we're working together, um, we definitely plan for breaks. And also when people are doing their homework, also, depending on what it is,
mhm,
plan for breaks, right? And so I'm always trying to read someone's energy because a lot of times, like you were saying before, people are people pleasers. And so they don't want to say to me, I need a break. But
mhm.
sometimes you can just feel a little bit of a drain and or a less focus or whatever you want to call it. And so we will say, okay, let's take a break for a few minutes, but breaks are also timed, right? So sometimes we carry our phones with us all the time. We'll work for a certain amount of time. Sometimes we set a 20-minute timer and the person just wants to keep going, but that's okay. So let's set another 20-minute timer and see. But if it's time for a break, okay, what do you need? 10 minutes? Let's set that 10-minute timer and then come back. And if somebody has a lot of homework, do the same thing with time because it's hard sometimes to keep going and that capacity could just drain. So yeah, we
Yeah.
recognize that too.
Yeah, and you actually hit on two key points because I'm always talking about how important it is to take breaks. And people with ADHD typically tend to freak out. Not maybe not freak. Well, yeah, no, some of us freak out about it because in the past it has been, we've stopped and then we don't go back, right? And so that idea of stopping kind of makes us really nervous. But you pointed out two things that I do, which is first of all, set a timer so you don't work too long because then you burn yourself out. But then also time the break, right? So that you don't so you don't forget you're on the break, which has happened to me. And also, and the other two rules I have is no sitting during your break because that's like the kiss of death, especially like no sitting on a comfortable couch. Like if you want to sit on like an uncomfortable dining room chair to eat or something, it's fine. But generally speaking, the minute we sit on a couch and we're on our phone, we're done for. And the other part of it is know exactly what you are coming back to do. Like don't say, well, I'm just going to keep working. No, 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 know exactly. Because when you come back, especially like if you're in the middle of a declutter, if you come back to what is probably going to look like a mess because you're in the midst of decluttering, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're going to go, oh gosh, what was I working on? And your brain's going to start to shut down. So I always include that in my rules for taking breaks. And when you implement those four things, right? Time it so you don't wait too long, time the break, know what you're coming back to, and no sitting, you are far more likely to return and be productive from your break. It's not 100% because nothing is, but it is something. So I'm really glad that you actually follow some of that because it's a
Yeah.
very important
And
skill
as
to
you were
learn.
just talking, I was thinking of another thing, maybe before the break, if you are in the middle of something, leave yourself a note so that when you come back, you know exactly what you need to do. I
That's
finished pile
yes.
A, start on pile B, or whatever it is that you're doing. That might help too, because
Yeah.
yeah, distractions happen.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I always say write it down and like put it like if you're working on your computer or whatever, like put it on your screen because there have been times I've come back and I'll be like, wait, what was I going to work on? And I just, like things happen and during that break and you forget and it happens. So it's always just better to write it down, externalize your thoughts. One of the top
Absolutely.
rules if you have ADHD. So what advice would you give somebody who feels particularly paralyzed by clutter and doesn't know where to start, especially if they have sort of quote unquote failed at organizing before? What would you say to them?
Start very small. Start someplace where you have no emotional connection to anything. Nothing feels sentimental to
Mm,
you. So examples of that would be a bathroom drawer because nobody really is tied to that toothpaste or an old toothbrush or whatever is in there, right? Like something like that is pretty easy to go through. Even a linen closet,
hmm
although you may come across a blanket grandma made or something like that, but in general, not that much. A food pantry is a pretty easy place, or even a kitchen junk drawer. So I would definitely focus on areas where you have no emotional connection to anything and there's no sentimental value and start small because you need the little wins to kind of build you up and keep you going.
Yes, 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 yes. And that's brilliant. Start where you don't have an emotional connection. I'm going to remember that because that's the thing that really gets you like tied up. We have like all these photos and stuff in the garage from when my parents passed away, several years ago. We have all these pictures that we still have to sort through. And every time I start to do it, I'm like, and I get like all this emotional stuff and I'm like, I probably shouldn't have started with this. So that's brilliant advice. I love that.
Good,
Um,
good.
um, okay. So how has your own background as a mom and a business owner informed your approach to organizing and empathy?
I think with empathy is very hard to teach.
Yeah.
I think some people have it and some people don't. And I am a very, very empathetic person. And my first jobs out of college were in public relations, and I was working for very, very large consumer product brands. And I remember feeling frustrated because we'd be working until all hours of the night because maybe packaging went wrong or something like that, that in the scheme of life didn't feel important to me. I understand the bottom line. I understand how corporations work. But for me personally, it was very hard to work until 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night over something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my next jobs after that were in the nonprofit world, and I was doing fundraising, and that's when I didn't even know. I was so young at the time, I didn't even know that nonprofits had paid employees.
Mm.
Um, and but that's when I learned I need to help people, and anything that I do moving forward, I need to be in that sector of the world. And then having children. I have 3 boys. They're all adults. They're all in their 20s now. I've been through that very busy season of life. I've been through where we're looking for the soccer shin guards and, the swimsuit and everything that they need. They were all into different sports, and everybody needs every uniform at the same time. And a lot of my clients are young families. Everybody in my team has been in their shoes, and so it's really helpful for us because one of the things that we do, especially when we work with young families, is we don't just try and create systems for now, but we know what the future is going to bring. And so we want to create systems that will grow as their families grow and as their children age, and so that they're not constantly reinventing the wheel.
I love that. I wouldn't that's just something I wouldn't have even thought about. Like you're looking at this not just for the now part of this, but like you said, like you know what's coming up. So how can we do this so that you can grow into the space versus having to kind of start over again? I love that. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Brilliant.
good. Thank you.
Um
Thank you.
you're very welcome. Okay, so all right, we're going to do what we now call the rapid fire round. So I'm going to ask you some questions and I would like you to answer just whatever comes to you first, top of mind. All right. So,
Got it.
ready?
Yes.
All right. First one is one organizing product you secretly dislike.
Acrylic bins that do not have 90-degree angles. They slant in. I wish I had one. I don't have one because I don't like them. You you want to have your acrylic bins or really fabric bins, any bins, to have a 90-degree angle because it will use the space in the best way. When you have a bin that comes in on the sides, you're wasting space.
That's
And
so true.
so
Yeah.
yeah. So you want to be able to maximize any area, whether it's a closet, a pantry, a drawer, doesn't matter what, go for that 90-degree angle. Anything other than that is
Awesome.
not helpful.
That is very true. All right. Number two, what's always a mess in your own house, no matter what?
Oh, I got a pile in the kitchen. Pile in the kitchen, Jorie. It's, got the papers, it's got the bills. It's not big. It's probably, an inch or so. It's my to-dos. It's always
Yeah.
there. It's always waiting for me.
Hey, trust me, ADHD people, we get piles. We understand
Mhm.
piles very well. We just have too
Mhm.
many of them. Best soundtrack or podcast for powering through a big organizing job?
Okay, lately it's been Shania Twain.
Hmm.
Like old school, like Man, I Feel Like a Woman, or,
Oh
whatever
yeah,
that I can't even think right now what is the name of that. And then I also um like Hamilton, listening to Hamilton.
it's a
Those
great
are my 2
soundtrack.
right. Yeah,
It's a great
it's great.
soundtrack.
Mhm.
All right. Lastly, what's one thing you wish everyone knew about professional organizers?
In general, I would say we all are really good people. Everybody is our nature is that we wanna help, right? And so it's the people in the profession are generally very caring people. So I would say that about the profession.
All right. Awesome. Well, I am so happy that you were able to join us today. And I am sure that our listeners were able to take away some amazing little tidbits from you. That the one thing I will say to my listeners is please don't try everything she has suggested today. Watch out for that all or nothing thinking. We try to do all the things and then we get completely overwhelmed and then we don't do any of them. So pick one thing to start and do that for a while and then maybe you can add some more of the things. But I know she gave some really good tips today, so it's It's going to be hard to choose, but I'm really, really happy that you were able to join us. What is the best way for people to find you?
There's many ways. My website is superorganizedspaces.com. My email is mindy@superorganizedspaces.com, the world's longest email. And then I could have said Mindy at SOS, right? But no, I went Mindy at superorganizedspaces.com. Those are probably the 2 best ways to do it. There
Okay.
is a contact form on my website as well.
Okay, awesome. And I'm going to have all of her information in the show notes, so you don't need to worry about that. So, Mindy Leonard of Super Organized Spaces, thank you again for joining us. Again, I'm sure everybody has gotten so much out of today, and you are really just like a blessing for people with ADHD who really struggle with the clutter and are needing a lifeline. That, the SOS, man, that is for a lot of people, that's a very real thing. And so I'm very happy that you were that person and decided to make it into a business.
Thank you so much, Jorie. I have learned so much from you too. And so, the relationship that we've developed over the years is really, really meaningful to me. So thank you for having me on. And I wish you so much success with this
Well, thank
podcast.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
I really do.
you. All right. Well, if you found any of this helpful, or if you have a friend who maybe could use this, please feel free to share this episode. And also, if you aren't already, please follow and leave a comment if you are liking what you hear. So try to declutter one thing at a time, and remember to stay curious.